Next question is from Ferm LaBouche. When did you all know it was time to go all in with Mind Pump?
Oh, man.
I lost this one.
Yeah. What do you mean?
I lost this one.
Oh, you tried to go
Do you not
earlier.
remember?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam definitely tried to incentivize us to jump in earlier, I think, than we were ready for. But
Well, he was in, and I understand why. He saw the writing on the wall. He's very good at reading business signals, but also, we all had kids and those responsibilities, and so it places a different
we
pressure.
wanted our own individual businesses at the time that we were all
Yeah. I wanted us all a little scared.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I really did. I wanted us all to be
It's really scary when you have kids to support.
which is why I lost, right? That's how that was actually if I had a kid at the time and I still want to, I might have won that argument because I've been like, I'm in the same boat as you motherfuckers.
Or
right?
would you have made that decision? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, probably still. I'm still just as crazy, I think.
It wasn't crazy though. You were pretty logical about it. It wasn't like you were just like, let's just do this.
it wasn't willy-nilly or anything. Yeah. It was
we
a
were
calculated risk.
already producing decent revenue. We weren't taking from the business yet. So what people have to know is that for the first year we didn't monetize anything. By year 2 we started to monetize.
And we had our normal businesses and jobs this whole time.
That's right. And everyone was making their livelihood elsewhere than Mind Pump, but Mind Pump was starting to generate revenue even though we weren't taking any of the proceeds yet for ourselves. But it was getting to a point where it was pretty consistent every month. Not enough for and this is where I wanted to go. It wasn't enough for anybody to quit their jobs and it would replace the income they were all making elsewhere. But that's what I was trying to seize that moment. I didn't want us to wait till everybody was making the same kind of money they were making doing other things. I wanted us to be a little hungrier, I should say.
Now, in hindsight, do you think I mean, obviously everything worked out well, but do you think we waited too long, or do you think?
I think I do. I still think it's part of our Achilles heel. I do. I think if
hungry enough.
Yeah, I just think that, and I'm just as guilty, right? So this isn't me like, I told you, guy. It's like I feel like sometimes, because this was a passion project, because we had security and other things, that we sometimes lack urgency in this business. In fact, off air before this podcast started, the 4 of us literally all in agreement. This is something we need to do for the business. We all agree it's important, it's important, it's important. But because we're not starving, or we don't if we don't do it right now, we're all fine financially, we kind of drag our feet a lot. And I feel like had we had that switch a little bit, because I've seen it in us, right? There was a time right before COVID hit, we got a little nervous.
Yeah, we did.
We all got a little that was the most nervous I've seen us in 7
Justin
years.
was turning tricks on the streets to make extra money.
Yeah,
Dude, man.
$20, $20. You know what I mean?
But we had we got a little nervous, and it was really neat to see just how dangerous the 4 of us could be if we were starving.
So I'm going to give you, because I agree, but I also am going to give a little pushback just for sake of conversation, because I respect tremendously what you have to say about this particular thing. I think you definitely have a genius when it comes to business, but I'll push back a little bit. And here's the counter. The counter is going to be that what it allowed us to do by waiting a little longer was by never compromising our integrity, because we had a lot of offers for deals and money and sell this product and push this particular thing this way, or sell it this particular way.
That's true.
But because we weren't backed into a corner, we could give them the finger and say, no, we're going to do it our way. And let me tell you,
We didn't have to have it.
we didn't have to. And I like being in a position where I don't have to, because then what I can do, because I'll tell you something right now, as much integrity as I have, if it's between integrity and my family's survival, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know if I'll compromise my integrity or not. I'm not saying I would, but I've never been in a position where I feel scared for, oh crap, or my kid's going to have to move, or we're going to have to take them out of their school, or we're going to whatever.
I'll concede to that.
Yeah.
I'll concede to that. I don't disagree with that statement at all. I think that's a very fair evaluation. And I don't even know myself. I'd like to believe that we would still, sacrifice, but I think that's a very fair point, because it did give us that luxury of, no, we're not. I mean, we
had the zero fucks attitude.
We didn't monetize for a year. And then when we actually started to monetize the programs, we didn't take advertising for another year after that, when we could have.
Yeah.
We could have taken advertising a year earlier than what we did. and we didn't because we wanted to wait.
I mean, we priced the programs the way we did based off integrity, where we could have wheeled and dealed. We didn't do subscription model. Thankfully, looking back, that would have not worked out so well. It would have been a nightmare. There's a lot of things. We turned down a lot of sponsors. We didn't do a lot of the tricks that people do on social media and with media in general to get attention, just to get a few eyes. And it put us in a pretty strong position. But I 100% get what you're saying, because I know that when your back's up against the wall, we all have another gear.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that for a fact. So, and here's how I look at it.
It's hard to manufacture that. Just
it is
when you're fat and happy, right? Like when things are going well, and but you always considering that, like, there's going to be dark days. Like, there's always going to be something to consider, and to try to generate that without any kind of real conflict or something that's like pushing you. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to create amongst us, but I think it's possible.
Now, the irony of all this is the best success all of us have ever had.
Yeah.
And we've all done lots of businesses.
Yeah.
We've all had our backs against the wall in that position. So it's easy for me to look back and be like, we did everything right because of where we're at. But I get what you're saying. I know that. I know if we're in a position where we're like, it's swim or die, we're all going to find a way to swim.
What are your thoughts, Doug?
I mean, I feel like we did it the right way, personally. Honestly,
You already stressed enough. That's why.
yeah. So yeah,
His back's against the wall.
Doug already feels like a stress cadet already.
yeah, my cortisol's already pegged to the
I
upper level.
Anymore.
No, I just feel like I'm capable of pushing through things and making things happen when I have to, but I don't need to add more stress to my life, honestly. Yeah. And I think we did do it the right way.
I tell you what, though, again, this maybe this goes in favor of my argument. If all of us did this before we had kids and mortgages and we were supporting our families,
I have a feeling it would look a lot different.
I don't know. I think we would have,
in terms of like the overall vibe.
Well, yeah.
I know we would have been animals.
Can you take? So I agree, but that would rewind us back to our early 20s, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's less to do with the kids, less to do with the family, more to do with being a bunch of 25-year-olds. Because if you gave our maturity and wisdom that we all have where we're at in our lives now, and we were, I think we would have been fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we would have been fine. I think that's the part that matters even more, was that we've seen a lot more in our lifetime, and Doug especially, right? Because he's almost lived 2 lifetimes, has seen so much more that I think that wisdom, we could bring that back to 25, it would be better. And I think with the question, right?
So the question is, when did we know? So you want it to happen faster.
I knew early. I knew actually, and so
let's see how much sooner?
I think you even knew early. I mean, I think we knew as soon as the podcast started to take off.
As soon as Craig,
before money was even involved. I think.
Oh, I knew this was going to go well.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone said it and felt it very early on, and so
how much sooner did you push it, and before we actually did all quit our jobs?
Almost a year.
Was it a year before?
Almost a year
Okay.
long. Yeah, I think we waited almost a year longer than I would have liked us to.
For me, I was in a weird position because I'm very conservative when it comes to investments, but when it comes to business, I'm very risky. I'll take a chance if I believe in it. But I was in a weird position because I had just gotten divorced, left the house to the ex so that my kids didn't have to move. And remember, I stayed with you, then I slept on my brother's couch, and then I had a tiny little apartment. And I had just sold my studio, and so I was just training people to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And my biggest fear was my kids had been going to the school that they really liked. My biggest fear was having to pull them out, because my whole goal during that period was I don't want to shake my kids' world any more than I have to, because their dad and their mom are getting divorced. Mm-hmm. So that kept me more like. So for me, I had to. When I felt like, okay, I can stop training people and not have to pull my kids out of school or do anything like that. That's when I felt that kind of safety. But that did make me wait longer than I think I would have.
Yeah, because you were the last person to cut all clients off, weren't you? Because even after we kind of went all in, I know we all still had a couple clients, but I think you had the roster the longest.
I did online a little bit for a while, but I did that not so much for the money. It was more because you had worked with online clients and you had gotten a lot of insight into training online. And because that was such a developing field, I had no experience.
Yeah.
So I did it more for the insight,
Yeah.
what was going on. But
Yeah. By the time you were doing online, because online came after you cut your clients.
yeah,
You were already fine financially.
Yes,
I know you
yes.
didn't need to do it financially.
Yes.
I think you did it more. I think but the clients in person,
I'm
you
trying
still
to remember when I did that. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was. I know I did kind of similar. Like I started to kind of farm out a lot of my clients to other trainers I knew that I trusted, and then that was like, and that was a big struggle, mainly between the conversations I'd have with Courtney, because she's the solid. Was a nurse, and I was grounded in the fact that we had like insurance and
Yes.
all that. So that was like my anchor. But then it was like at a point she was miserable in her job, and I'm like, I know she wants to transition out of this and to stay home. And I'm like, oh no, well, I'm actually just ditching this completely and starting this whole new thing. And she was like, I don't know about that. Like, I've done this to her multiple times in our marriage.
It took a while before Courtney was even sold. The business was hella successful, and
Yeah.
she still wasn't even sold on it.
Because you know why?
I remember that.
He's a
Again,
serial entrepreneur. She's married to a serial
That's
entrepreneur.
it. I've done this in the past so many times, and she sees how the patterns go. And,
Hey, you got to swing the bat, baby.
I swing, man. That's just it. And it's difficult because it put a lot of stress on our marriage and everything. But to that point as well about us having maturity coming into this, we reinvested a lot of our money. And so it was like, if we made money, we kept putting
That's
it back
true.
in.
We took
And
a
so
tiny
she never
little
really
salary.
saw that in our bank account.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
her whole thought of like how much money we were making was only what's in our bank account. I'm like, no, babe, we got it in here and then we got it over here. It's like,
She's like, I don't care.
I don't have it.
I'm still driving a
That's all
Corolla.
she knew.
Well, I mean, you know what? You talked about clients going to. You know what was hard for me that I dreaded was telling people that I trained for 10 years, 12 years, 13 years that I wasn't going to train them. And
I know.
remember.
I
Oh.
still struggle with that because
It still hurts me to
Yeah.
talk about it because I had
I'm
developed.
terrible at following up.
Oh,
too.
I had developed such relationships with these people. Some of them, it was their entire fitness career, like it was how they started fitness.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them I'm gonna have them train with someone else. It's like you can't replace that relationship. And I look at the look on their face, and they all told me I knew this was coming because they knew
Yeah.
about Mind Pump. And
They're
all
like
that stuff.
happy for you, but they're also like, they were super bummed out.
Oh,
man.
broke
It was
my
a hard
heart.
conversation.
It
I
broke
had.
my heart to do it. That was one of the hardest things to do. So for trainers who do that, man, I feel it.
I think part of the reason why we were able to make it work is because there's without like putting ourselves. I think if I was by myself, I would have had to force myself in the corner.
Yeah.
But because we had each other to lean on and strengths of other guys to
Yeah.
be able to lean on, I felt like that's also part of why it still worked out. Like I feel there's, or at least for me, I feel like if there's no way, if I had something that I saw like, oh, there's opportunity here, I
Yeah.
can make this happen, and I'm not jumping all over it right away.
Actually,
and
that's fair. If I was by myself, I probably would have jumped faster because I don't know how I would have done it
yeah,
than
there's-
the other way.
yeah,
I think the advice I would give to a younger entrepreneur is if you don't have, as I tell people this all the time, especially in the NCI coaching group, if you don't have a lot of responsibilities, and I mean real responsibilities, so don't get offended. But look, unless you're taking care of your family, you're invincible. I was before I had all this. I don't
If you
give a
have
shit.
like a parrot you have to feed.
Yeah,
It doesn't count.
I know that I could end up on the streets and I'll be fine the next day by myself. But when my kids depend on me, my wife, if you have parents that depend on you, that kind of stuff. But if you're that free where you're not married, you don't have kids, you don't have anybody to worry, that's the time to take the biggest risk.
Go for
Well,
it.
the reason why, because okay, we talk all the time about how motivation is bullshit, self-belief is everything,
Yeah.
right? And that if you rely on motivation to get yourself in shape and stuff like that, you're eventually going to fall out of shape. And it's
Totally.
not. If that the same thing goes for being successful in business. When are we highly motivated? When it's a new idea and
Yeah.
it's fresh and you're just getting started. So when the motivation eventually wears off, it's really hard for the average person to get up every day, still grind those hours in, unless it is literally the only way you fucking eat. It is do or die.
That's right.
You got the built-in motivation every day. This is why I like that. This is why I like putting myself in that situation because then I'm not counting the hours all day. I'm
You know
counting
you're
my
gonna work
next
your way
meal. How am I going to eat next? I'm not stopping work until I've figured that out. Like where if you have that luxury and you have that cushion and you do it, then you rely on it to be exciting all the time. And this is the only business, which so all the other ones I've ever built, the very beginning, there's the honeymoon stage, and it's amazing and it's fun, and you're trying to figure things out, and then you prove to yourself you figured it out. Then you make a little bit of money doing it. Now you're making a nice little living off of it, and then it's like wah, wah, wah.
Boring.
This is the first one that I have ever done that is 7 years deep, and I'm arguably as excited
more
to come to work or more every day.
Only
today.
time it's ever happened. That's like the first thing, like, again, to the point of being the serial entrepreneur, different. It's the interest level. It just goes away.
Because you like building stuff.
I love building stuff.
We're not done building this. There's a lot of
There's much more to go.
Yeah, but I'm just happy that, I don't know, man, back against the wall back then, we might have ended up with a line of fat burning or something like that.
I mean, you bring up a really good point that it's I said I'll concede to that because here's the thing. You said maybe you would. I'll be straight up. If it came down to feeding my son or giving me food, I'll steal. That's just if it was do or die. Like I'll risk going to jail.
Yeah.
To make sure my kid lives and my wife is fed.
I get that.
Like that's to me. That's 100%. I know that I'm that person, and so you're right. By doing so, I never had to question that. There was never a point where it's like, dude,
we were in a great position, man. We could tell people to F off all day long, and we did. We told a lot of people to F off in those early years. Now, I mean, we still do. We still tell a lot of. We don't say it like that though. We're much nicer now.
We're a little nicer.
We had a little bit of a chip on the early days, right?